easiest assumption to dispel is that there's no money out there for what you're doing. There is. The problem is that you're just not framing it the right way, or that you're just not reaching out to the right people.
The worst case scenario, they'll tell you no.
Yep.
That's the worst case. But just shoot your shot to do it.
There's always the question of, is it easy or is it hard, right? And I don't think that's the more important question. I think the more important question is whether it is worth it. A few years ago, I was trying to scam my boss to travel around Nigeria.
Scam.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it was.
What is a mindset or a belief or a thought or an action that you want people to do away with when it comes to funding in creative enterprises? Hello, everyone. I would like to commend you all for being here at the end. I mean, can you please give yourselves a money-making round of applause? So let me start with a quick show of hands. How many of you here have built or you're dreaming to build a globally scalable enterprise? Creative one. Let's see. Okay, so our panelists, do you see? You see? They're in the right room. Okay. So we're all creative entrepreneurs here, and we can all attest to the fact that we weren't given a blueprint, right? We've had to do this with trial and error and immense grit. All the lessons you learn, you mess up. I was about to swear. You're going to mess up. Then the shame is on you. Then you learn the lesson and apply it yourself. And I'm so happy that we get to pave the way for others here. Can we please give our panelists a round of applause? I mean, I'm so happy to be here.
Panelists.
Okay, so I'm going to start with Wale Lawal. You're the founder of The Republic. Love your magazine. Thank you so much. You recently secured over $700,000 in grant funding from various organizations. I wanted to put something at the back here. He was pleased to announce 3 times. Did anybody see that? He was pleased to announce, and then pleased to announce, and then the stew was so good, he was pleased to announce again. So I just wanted to have you provide some insights to the people here. So, first of all, what is one assumption about fundraising that you want people to kind of distill tonight?
Oh, that's a good question. And I think that there are many different layers, but I would say the easiest assumption to dispel is that there's no money out there for what you're doing. There is. The problem is that you're just not framing it the right way, or that you're just not reaching out to the right people. But I would say that, yes, the biggest, misconception is that there's no money or nobody willing to kind of fund the work that you are doing. There is. If you're not finding much luck, it's either you're not speaking to the right people or you're not framing what it is that you're doing, I think, the right way.
Thank you so much. So basically, just to repeat what you're saying, there's no such thing as there's no money.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as there's no opportunity out there for me. There's a very popular quote that says, you're not special enough to have a new problem. Somebody out there has solved it. Now it's up to you to go find it. So Nora, I have the same question for you. What is a mindset or a belief or a thought or an action that you want people to do away with when it comes to funding in creative enterprises?
I think for me, it will be, there is nobody that is not approachable.
That's on period.
Like, the worst case scenario, they'll tell you no.
Yep.
That's the worst case. But just shoot your shot to do it. Because I realized that it is even those that you did not put your mind in, like saying, oh, I want to get funding from this person. The people that have set a list and written their names, this person, don't worry, they'll put their check behind my idea, are the ones that will tell you, oh, their excuses somewhere. But if you think this idea or this person is not approachable, it's a lie. Like, just approach them. And for me, at least 90% of the time, I get a yes from people I'm scared of. So I think that's even giving me the confidence to be like, yeah, just talk to them, walk to them, tell them your idea, send that email, and you don't know what might come out of it. They may not even fund you now, but it just keeps you in the eyes of other future projects that they now reach out to you for.
Thank you so much. So we're talking about top of mind awareness here. Nobody's approachable. No man is God. Fuhad, I have the same question for you. What is something, a subconscious thought, programming, anything that you want to help people break today when it comes to funding opportunities?
Okay, so God, it sounds very aspired to Maguire.
No, it's fine.
But there's always a question of, oh, is it easy or is it hard, right? And I don't think that's the more important question. I think the more important question is whether it is worth it. Because I feel like once you lock in on the idea of a thing being worth it, you find out more and more. And it's such like basic advice. More and more is like how much energy are you actually putting into chasing these things? Everyone likes to talk about the fact that, oh yes, 3 plays to announce last year. Like, but not many people know that like the Republic has been grinding for almost a decade. Right? Nora is also an interesting example in the sense that like I've known Nora for a few years now. And Nora is always starting something and getting people to start something. There's a WhatsApp group somewhere. Of one documentary that did not happen. Hopefully, to happen one day. But Nora like shamed us for wasting her time and went on to like just get stuff done. And so like whenever people are like, oh yeah, like I couldn't get this, I couldn't find this, I couldn't like. It's always down to that question. It's like, is this thing worth it or not? Like, if it is worth it, then you need to figure it out. Because, like, there really is not that way. Because there's no way, for example, that you tell me that 5 years ago you knew how to fund a film. But, like, we're going to watch it in cinema in, like, how many weeks? Right? There's no way that you are starting a Republic and having an idea and say you wanted to do a cute magazine. And it's also funny because I have these people's gist, right? It's like you are starting a magazine, and by 2017, for example, the examples in the world were publications like Pulse. Like you don't compete with a Pulse, and you start to ask yourself like, am I mad? Am I stupid? But it's really down to it. It's not about whether it is going to be easy or hard. You will see shaggy. The question is it worth it? Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I think just to go over what you're saying, most of the time, what you see here is not you're seeing the finished product. And I even hate to say it, you haven't even seen the finished product. What you're seeing here is years and years of self-development, of business development, of where you keep going, even when you've gotten no's, like what Nora said, even when you didn't even have the shiny magazine, like you said, they have kept on going. And you have to just keep going. And I think that's the lesson that we want to learn here. So to the white lion herself, Nora, I want to ask you a question. So what is the most difficult question that you had to answer when you were trying to raise capital? Now, let's go back to that question. Did that question force you to make any adjustments to your approach? Show them the way.
Okay, that's actually deep. I'm going to use Red Circle as a case study. Red Circle is coming out in cinema June 6. And I remember when we were raising money for the film. So unlike, I think raising money for a creative idea is actually quite a tax because you don't have a collateral. This is just an idea on a paper that you're telling somebody, don't worry, I can do this, I can do that. I think for me, the most difficult question I got was, so if this film does not sell or if anything happens, how do I get my money back? Whose house will you drop as collateral or something? The person was just looking for like a collateral to just back. And I understand, like your investment needs to be safe. What do you want to put down? There is a physical collateral to get back my investment. That did not make me change my pitch or anything. It's not everybody that you talk to that will tell you yes. For the first 50 people that I was talking to, got a lot of no's.
The first 50?
Yes. got a lot of no's. I wrote down a list. And those ones that would tweet at me and say, don't worry, we're making this film together. I sent a message to them. Not everybody said yes, but that's fine. I think the people that actually said yes first were my friends that we worked together on sets. I was like, okay, so you people have money. Interesting. But they were actually the ones that said yes and said, don't worry, I'll back you with this money. Once I knew, oh, if my friends can believe in my idea, then I think somebody else would be able to. Um, Also, what I realized again while raising was people also want to see just evidence because this is a script. You know how many Nollywood people are asking people for funds to raise money for their films and all. But the moment we start, I remember when we wanted to shoot, I got my actors, convinced Buki Wright to come back to Nigeria to come and film everything. And I told my friend and I said, see, me, there are things I cannot do. Like I know my own limit and pros. Sorry, I don't want to say I cannot dance. I can dance sometimes. But there are things I cannot do. And I told them, let's shoot an announcement video. Normally, in Nollywood, what we see people do is just release a design of their cast and just call that like an announcement release. I went into that shoot without raising fully, by the way. Like, I was just like, I was going to call my father, credit card or everybody, in case I'm owing the crew members to pay them. But once we announced this, because we shot the announcement video as an ad, I did not need to get like an extra crew. I just told my lawyer, impute it in everybody's contract. The actors, there's a set aside date for like shooting that video. We had our cast reading basically just before. Even the actors were like, what's an announcement video? What's this? Like, it just felt very crazy. But the day we released that video was our first day shooting. That's our principal photography. People that said yes were calling me and saying, are you still raising money? And I finished raising the money for that film that week. And I told people, sorry, I'm no more raising for the film. And
Can we give her a round of applause?
that was, for me, it was, okay, so you people just wanted to see a pilot or something. Do you get to just back the idea up? And what that had now done is now me telling people, oh, the ones that said no, don't worry, we have other slate of films that are coming. You can come on board and all. But I did not give anybody collateral of my father's house or my parents' house to fund. Even the person that asked for collateral came back and said, do you have any other film that you want to fund? At the end of the day, just do it. Do it scared. Do it.
Thank
anyway.
you so much,
That's
Nora. Thank you. That was wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to summarize in two descriptions. The first that I heard here is that you do not compromise your values for means or lack. Right? That's one lesson I took out of this. And one thing that we as creatives tend to do is that we understand that who we are is enough and our essence is enough to open doors. But then when we find ourselves in corporate institutions, they want to use a standardized framework for an innovative industry, right? It doesn't work. And then the second thing I got from you is show workings, like do something. Take that first step. You know, there's something in the Bible there was something my mom taught me in the Bible that Moses basically got into the sea before it parted. So you have to take that first step. You can dream and say, oh, I want a globally funded company, but you have to take some steps that shows credibility, that shows passion, that shows initiative. So Fuad, I have a pipeline question for you around what Nora said. Do you have or do you feel any pressure to adjust your approach to building archival? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Archiving. It's a mouthful. Thank you so much. Based on funding needs. So do you feel any pressure to adjust yourself, to adjust your values, to adjust your essence? Do you feel any need to do that? And if so, how do you handle that? And how do you flow with people's expectations? Because they're young people here. How can they stay true to themselves without bowing to pressure? What is your advice?
Okay, so I think that with most creative enterprises, all things being equal, you start out very delusional, right? And as slowly you start to calibrate to reality. I think most of the time you end up halfway. I find that I've been pitching projects or getting stuff done. So like maybe say 2017. And I always start out at this very dreamy place and slowly calibrate to a middle path where it makes sense for them, it makes sense for me. My non-negotiable is always like, oh, what is the core mission? Why does this thing exist? How can I avoid mission creep or scope creep? Right? But personally, I spent too many years working in management and seeing how people approach budgets. So that influences a lot of how I even ask for stuff, right? It's always very cute when I see like creatives trying to pitch a project and you're pitching it on like based on belief, right? But I know, for example, now that if you are pitching an organization, for example, any money they are spending money because it helps them do something better or it helps them make more money. And so if you genuinely need to figure out like how to make that work. A few years ago, I was trying to scam my boss to travel around Nigeria.
Scam.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it was. I was trying to scam my boss to allow me to travel around Nigeria. And I had this cute idea to travel around the country. And everybody thought it was stupid. Someone actually said it was stupid, but like I didn't have money to vex. I'm going to do it by myself. So that's how I learned how to sell. Like I literally went to events and said, oh, I'll travel with your brand. This, that, that. It was 2017. So it wasn't like we had a lot of examples from an influencer, in quotes, standpoint. And the moment someone was going to look good at their job, like the resources came out. Right? And so it's always very, very important to really understand like the other side, because the best case scenario is just a win-win. If you are lucky, when your friends and your families and your family, when they are backing you because they like you.
Yes.
Right? They believe in you. They have context. But as your projects get more and more ambitious, it's going to like engage with reality and the real world. And your best case scenario is to like land a middle ground. Something he said earlier is that it's actually a framing thing a lot of the time. So, for example, we are trying to make a film about like a couple in love, right? But you're going to go and ask an organization interested in like women's welfare, right, for money. How do you frame it in a way that drives their own initiatives without compromising your own like narrative and stuff? So it's largely just, it really just feels like the job is to just learn how to sell and sell a lot. Yeah. So compromises like they will always come. So my priority is once I've protected like what I consider as like the mission, and there's no creep or there's no digression. For example, if someone comes and tell us that we should do like climate change for grass, it's like that's not our business, right? But a lot of the time it really is down to like just that pitch and like how you frame it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I just like summarizing everything everyone says, but for this, if you want to take a lesson out of what he said, he's basically explaining that it's almost like you're tipping the scale. Yes, you have to almost tip to the other side, and you can frame, right, your purpose into what they need. So I want to come back to Wale, and basically I'll have to say it again, 700,000 is not easy. Not. Now, how did you structure, because now we're going to the other side, how did you structure your operations to be able to receive those grants?
Like,
what did you do? Guys, take notes. What did you do?
That's a very important question, because I think, the other thing, it was the second thing I was thinking about when you said, what's the thing that, that first question about misconceptions about fundraising.
Yes.
And I think the second thing I would say is that people think that getting money and managing it is easy. But there's no such thing as free money. I think just based off of what they've been saying, what I would kind of try and flesh that out into is, if you're looking to raise money, you also have to be, especially from the creative side, you also have to be fundable. And that is a very, very different ball game. It's one thing to have the idea. It's one thing to be able to pitch it. It's one thing to have the talent. But the thing is, you also need to have the structure to be able to receive those types of funds. And the reason I say this is because even the types of funds you receive do two things. They reflect the kind of organization that you are, but they also influence the kind of organization that you become. So one thing for me, if I look back on my own story, is I said it from the get-go, I was never going to crowdfund. Because I think crowdfunding blurs a lot of lines and it introduces too many stakeholders into the room. And then I also said, you know what, I'm also going to keep equity investment very, very low because, of course, the Republic is a startup. We were trying to raise pre-seed, right? And I said, you know what, I want to also remove the presence of VC people, private investment, because those guys, I mean, and my background is in corporate, I just happen to work in the creative industry. So I could speak their language. I could talk about unit economics. I could talk about all of those things. But I knew that that's not the kind of money that would help the kind of work that I was trying to do. The kind of money that we needed is what people call patient capital. It's money that is there to fund projects that take a longer time to have some sort of yield. And creative projects tend to be that way because they are cultural projects, and culture takes a very long time to change, and you don't measure culture the same way you measure commerce. Let's put it that way. And I think that even that thinking got further refined when I was at a conference once with Tomiwa from Big Cabal, and he said it there and then and said, if you could do things differently, he wouldn't, or if you could advise somebody, he would advise them to not take VC money because VC money is very aggressive for the kind of industry that we are in. So that's the first thing, right? Being very clear about the kind of money that you're trying to attract, but also knowing the kind of project and the kind of organization that you are setting up. And I say organization because, again, if you're looking to raise anything beyond, let's say, 100K, you're no longer raising it as an individual creator. There needs to be some sort of organization behind it. Some of the things that I needed to do, and I'm just going to, run through them so that we have enough time to talk about other things, are number one, making sure that I had the right systems in place when it came to financials. It was very strange, and I remember I had gotten this advice from the beginning that before you can actually raise tangible money for what you're trying to do, you're going to need to show that you've been able to survive for 3 years. And I remember when, I was speaking to a funder at the time, I would go to a lot of conferences, which is something I would do, and I would encourage everybody to do. And when you go to conferences, try not to just network with only creatives. Try and network with the people that also give money. They're also there. And they might be there from like a corporate perspective. Just try and find those people. Ask the organizers, are any funders going to be there? Can I get a session with them? That kind of thing. And one of them had flat out told me that, yes, we like what you're doing, but, and this was maybe 2016, 2017, but you've not been doing this for long enough. Come back to us when you've been doing this for 3 years. I said, okay. I thought the person was just, pushing me away in that kind of sense. But then I was obviously working my 9-to-5 job, trying to build this at the same time, which I think is another thing that I did. So I had registered the company on time, was building it as a side hustle, but also trying to start to see the kinds of funds that we could get. So we could get that easy 20K grant. And even that 20K grant was still asking us to show audited statements. We're still asking us to show proof that we are registered in Nigeria. We're still doing due diligence. And so we were able to build that practice from early on, from as much as trying to raise 20K. Then the next tranche came in 50K, right? So, okay, you've been able to do this. Then you go back and you show that, okay, we did this for 20K. Now we're trying to raise 50K for this project. Yeah. Again, I'm able to do this because, of course, the project is still very small. And I'm still not doing this. And I'm still not doing this full time. 50K. Okay. Then we set the next target, which by that time we were already in year 3, 100K. Right? And by that time, people are asking you, show us 3 years of financial statements. And guess what? We have the 3 years of audited financial statements. The thing about fundraising is that it's very easy to say, okay, you need this money, But the other question is, are you really ready for what that money demands? You know, so right now we're saying, yes, we've been able to raise all of those funds. But the big question, the thing that keeps me up at night right now is, how are we going to go back to those funders and tell them that we've done good with the money that they've given us? It is only possible if, alongside being able to raise ambitious amounts, is also being able to manage those funds. And that comes with discipline, that comes with, you know, not growing too fast, that comes with cutting your losses on things very, very quickly. But I'd say that the ways that we were able to structure our team was we started to pay a lot of attention to the corporate side of things. I would encourage everybody here, and I don't think that as creatives, it's your job to be corporate. I would say, you know, obviously try and understand it as much as possible. But as soon as you can, find somebody that you can work with that can join your team, either as your business development partner, as your co-founder, as your co-producer, whose job is literally to focus on corporate. I'm saying that because I work in creative, but my background was solidly corporate. I had spent 10 years working in some of the most corporate environments before I decided to move into this thing full time. And I think that it is so important to realize that, because otherwise, what ends up happening, and I've seen this happen so many times, is that you get the money, you're doing the project, you've not really built the systems to manage that money, and then suddenly you're on, you know, some news being accused of fraud. Literally. And that happens. And the funny thing is that a lot of the times when that happens, you read the stories and you can just tell that that was because of just poor financial management. And so I think it's a very, very important thing. I think the biggest shift that we made was becoming more fundamentally corporate with how we handle money, reporting, quarterly reports, monthly reports, financial reports that we were sending out to people. But also, as you're raising all of this money, the Nigerian government is paying attention to the work that you're doing too. So even paying your taxes, making sure that every single thing is accounted for. And so you now start to realize that, oh, if this is what it is going to cost me to raise that kind of money, am I really ready for that? And so if you're asking yourself that question, that is a really good question to be asking. It's not just about asking how much do I need to raise, it's also about asking, am I actually ready for the amount that I'm looking to raise?
Thank you so much. Could we please give him a round of applause? Thank you. That was really amazing.